A lot of people have asked me how to do castor packs, so I'm going to give you an instructional on what I know about castor packs so you can get started. You will need a piece of flannel, an old piece of flannel. I have used sheets and pillowcases. You can even take old pajamas or shirts. So I have a piece here, I've already cut it up, and it's a long piece. You want something that's long enough to fold over and to create several layers on wherever you're going to put it, or even something long that eventually you could wrap around your arm, your leg, your knee, put on your hand, or wherever you're going to use it. Because once you create this piece of flannel with your castor oil, you will be reusing this for as long as you need to, actually. I don't replace mine very often, and that kind of freaked me out in the beginning to think that I was going to be reusing something so regularly. But now I find it perfectly normal. It doesn't get dirty. You'd be surprised how long they last. And as you use it, you will find that you can add more oil as needed, and you will sort of figure it out. So I am going to use a food grade gallon plastic bag here because I always keep the castor oil on plastic, and I'm always very careful to make sure that the castor oil is not exposed to anything that might have chemicals that couldn't go into my body or couldn't store food, because every little pore on your skin is like a tiny little mouth that takes in anything that it's exposed to directly into your bloodstream. So I use these twist tie gallon size bags. I bought this whole box of 100 at Walmart for about $3 or $4 or something. And these are the ones that I use. And I like them because you can create a lot of different ways. I'm going to cut it open. And I usually use the inside, especially since there's a little bit of writing, as you can see, on the outside. So I don't want that writing in contact with the oil. So I'm going to open this up because I'm going to use the example of putting the castor oil on my arm. So I'm going to open it up like this long ways, and I am going to place my flannel here on top, and I'm going to put the oil on it. Your flannel must be washed with free and clear or borax. You don't want any chemical residues. You want no dryer sheet chemical residues. You want this to be extremely clean because the oil is a sort of solvent. It's being exposed to your skin, and you want to be hyper vigilant about anything that's going to be exposed to your skin and the castor oil, because the castor oil is there to help you heal. You don't want anything being introduced to that injury site that could increase trauma to the area. So my castor oil is organic, and I buy a lot of my products from Swanson Vitamins. And this is not an advertisement for them. I get no benefit from mentioning them, but I've been using them for over 20 years now. I love the company. They offer a lot of great products. Their prices can be very competitive because their packaging is very similar. They're dealing with huge quantities. And their labeling is also the same, so they're able to buy in huge quantities and save on a lot of things that other companies can't benefit from. So I'm just going to keep pouring this on until my flannel gets saturated. And this initial process, the first time you do it, can be a little bit longer as you sort of kind of get it in there. Some people ask me if you can use cotton or washcloths, and I suppose you could. You just want something that is not going to be messy and that can absorb the oil and keep it intact. This oil is very sticky, and it also stains, so you want to be very careful about not getting it on your linens or your clothes, because you will not get it out. It will permanently change the color. Your initial castor pack creation will take up a lot of oil, but after you have done this the first time, you will add very little oil afterwards to it. There is a lot of information online about castor oil and castor packs being used with heat, and I am not necessarily a big fan of adding the heat to it. I have found that using neoprene covers and insulation wraps and just allowing the own body temperature to create that elevated rise in temperature at the location is often enough. You can try heat, you might get better results from it. It just depends. But be aware that you don't need the heat to get the results, and sometimes you may benefit from longer time exposures with no heat than shorter intense exposures with heat. So you're getting two very different results depending on how you're applying it and how you're allowing the body to work with it. Castor oil is also called the Palma Christi, and there is a book about this, and I will give you a photo of that book in my blog articles so you can buy it. It's a wonderful book, and it's written by a doctor who has had great success with it. And Edgar Casey is probably one of the first people to have really got people on board with the value and the benefits of castor oil for healing and benefits. So I'm getting very close to getting this done. You'll know it's going to take a few minutes to get this situated. And then we're getting really close there. See, it's turning a dark green. And you don't want to put too much on the first time, because as you wrap it up, you're going to have a lot of oil as it continues to seep into the cloth, and that can drain off the sides of the plastic wherever you locate it, and that can create a big mess. So it can be, the first couple times it might be a learning curve, so be ready for any potential problems you might have, because if you have a problem you might not ever do it again, and this might actually be a great solution for many of your problems. So I am going to finish up with this. I always have a roll of paper towel close by, because I am always trying to get this stuff off my hands. So I'm just going to use my arm as an example, since it's easy to show you. And I am just going to use a small area. There are lots of ways we could do this. I could make it very long and wrap it all the way around my arm, around like that if I was trying to cover the whole of my arm. Or I could just wrap it around my wrist, which is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to wrap it around my wrist right here. I'm going to give it a little bit of space because I know that the oil is going to seep out here. And I am just going to put my arm down on the plastic. Grab another piece of paper towel. And I am just going to take the plastic and wrap it around. This will reduce the amount of mess. And depending on where the location is, I may use an ace bandage. I could put on a wrist brace. I could just tape it on, which is what I'm going to do right now, just to give you an example. I just use painter's masking tape and I tape it on. You can also use medical tape, but because it's just plastic and this tape is less expensive, this is also a very appropriate option. So I can just do that. It's very easy to control and rip off. And I might put another one on, but I'm going to take this off since this is just for an example. I think it's very important to insulate the caster where it's located on your body. And the reason I do is because it enables your body heat and the increased blood flow which the castor oil is going to create to this area, and your body heat will increase and it will increase the benefits of it. You could use a sock. I often use my old socks and I cut off when the heels go out. I save the top of the sock and then I can put the sock on. I'm going to tape this better. I don't want any oil coming out. So I've taped this on and then I'm going to put this on over it. And I always keep a thumb hole. I cut a little hole in the side. And then I could just do something like that maybe. And then I could heat it up by putting a neoprene waist trimmer or something else down. But I want to keep this area very warm. And I want to make use of my own body heat. And if I've done this properly, I will be able to go about. I could vacuum or work on the computer, and it's not going to really influence things that I need to do. I can, still access and use my fingers. I could eat. I can type on the computer. I can make phone calls. So that's what I would do, and I typically leave on the castor oil wherever it needs to be for as long as my body is comfortable with it. I find that at some point, if this is appropriate for you and it's the right solution for your injury, you will get a little bit of relief, maybe an hour or two after or 3 hours. And keep it on as long as you can tolerate it. At some point you may begin to start to get itchy, or when I sleep with castor oil on my body or an injury, I will wake up and I will be wide awake, and as soon as I take the castor pack off, I suddenly go right back to sleep. So my body has a beautiful way of telling me and waking me up and indicating that I'm finished, that the castor oil for that time is done. And so I will take it off, and I will just arrange this right now, put this on the side. And I will take it off when my body is indicating that we're done. And oftentimes, if the pain comes back, that's my body's indication that it wants the castor pack back, that it's ready for more healing. Because what the castor oil does is it increases blood flow, it's increasing healing dramatically, it reduces stagnation, it gets the blood flowing, it increases healing. And so your body sometimes can only handle so much at one given time. So it needs a break, and when that break is finished, it will return your symptom, and your symptom coming back is an indication that it wants more. So the body is a great messenger, and it will be giving you all the right signs at exactly the right times. So this is how I organize myself afterwards, is I take off the castor pack and I leave it on the plastic, because that's how I'm going to keep it. And I wipe off all the castor oil on my arm so that I don't get it on anything else. It's the first thing I do. And then I am just going to fold this over. And this becomes a perfect wrap for my castor oil to keep it clean. I'll fold it over again. And then I put it into a Ziploc baggie. And I keep it with my Castor Pack supplies. I just close it over. It's never going to dry out because it's oil. I'll just close it up and then we're done. And the next time I come back, it's all ready to use. And I always use a new piece of plastic so that the oil is not residually on there. And that's how I work. And sometimes if I'm using the castor oil on a foot, I will just keep the whole bag intact and put the foot inside the bag. You can also do the same thing if you have arthritis in your hands or you have injuries to your hands. You could also put the bag over the whole hand with the castor on it. You could also envision using cotton manicure gloves saturated in oil instead of flannel, which is another option you could consider. Or you could just wrap over it with the thing and not cover, because even if your fingertips are exposed, your hand and the blood circulation will still be mobilized in the whole of the hand, so your fingertips are likely to still get the benefits. I would, if you want to use your fingers and your hands while you have the castor on them, I would suggest getting food grade plastic food preparation gloves, which are very, very inexpensive. They use them for cafeterias and all sorts of food preparation in supermarkets. That would be a wonderful way to cover the castor on the hand, and you could put over gloves. If you're using the castor oil on your abdominal area or your back area, I would suggest opening up the bag in a bigger, broader area, the wide cut, just the top and the sides of it, opening it up, and you put the castor pack laying down, and you can use it for ovarian cysts. A lot of people get great success from that. You can use it for back pain. You can use it to help gallbladder flow and liver function and detoxification processes. So that's another way to do it. And if you're using it on your abdominal area, I suggest you get the waist trimmer bands. They are very inexpensive online. Be sure to make sure that they are very wide, because the oil has a tendency to run everywhere. So the longer and wider it is, the more flexibility you will have. And I like the neoprene because it's very warm. It's a great insulator. And it also has the benefit of being very rigid. So if you're using it on your back or your abdominal area, it's not going to dig into your middle if you are bending over, because you don't want anything cutting into your abdominal area. In addition, waist trimmers can be used on the thigh or on an arm or other locations to create that insulating factor. So you can use these for a lot of good places on the body to keep the castor pack in place. So I have put on a castor pack earlier on my abdomen, and I'm just going to show you how I manage that. I tend to put them underneath my shirts, and I always I'm very sensitive to the plastic. Even though it's food grade, it does tend to make my skin a little bit itchy. So I like to have another liner over it. So I have mine pinned here so that it won't undo, because the Velcro is old, and this is my favorite one. I've had it for far too long now. And as you'll see, I have tapered the edges. It's no longer square. And I cut them off because when I have them here, when they're square, they were digging in, and this tough, rigid Velcro was creating abrasions on my skin. So I will take this off and arrange it and put my safety pin back on so I don't lose it. And another thing that's very important to mention with your castor oil is that you do not want to use castor oil on open wounds. I know there might be some people out there who have miracle results from wound care with castor oil, but as a general rule, you do not use castor oil on open wounds. It is okay if you have scratches or minor abrasions, but not on an open wound. So here I have my overlay, and this is just a old shirt that I cut off the sleeves, and it's just a tube now. So I will take this off, and it keeps the, it enables me to have a cotton barrier between the neoprene and my skin, because the neoprene does prevent some oxygen exposure to the skin, and that can create problems. So here I have my plastic. I have it on my liver and my gallbladder right now because I do have Crohn's disease, colitis, and celiac, and so this is one of the ways that I manage pain and keep my GI tract functional. So I just take it right off, fold it right in half. It's going to go right back into its Ziploc baggie. I always use the same one. I'm going to take my paper towel, and I've had this castor pack on since about 6 o'clock this morning, and it's now 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I do not use heat with my castor packs on my liver because I get far better benefits by keeping it on without heat for longer periods of time. So that's what I do, and I have heard a lot of feedback from other people that the heat, that they no longer do castor packs on their abdominal area because it made them very gassy, and that doesn't happen if you don't use heat. So you want to keep that in mind. So once you get it all off your abdominal area, you might have some of it have run back in the back area, you're done. And then you should feel a lot better. So I encourage you to be creative. There is no rule to this. Your body will guide you, and have fun with it. And it doesn't work for everyone, but it does work for a lot of people. And I know that I've had incredible results with it. And I have met an enormous amount of people who have also had incredible results by using castor packs on one-time serious injuries, and also as a regular use for liver, abdominal cysts, and all sorts of other problems such as arthritis, joint pain, and other sorts of problems that can really get in the way of people's enjoyment of life. So I hope this was helpful for you, and I look forward to helping you more in the future.